Good morning, everyone. My name is Judith. I assist Angela in the education department. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're here with the economic update with Lawrence Yun. Quick announcement, this session is being recorded. If you do not want to be recorded, please turn off your camera. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it to Lawrence.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I am in Washington, D.C. The temperature outside is 17 degrees. I think you are going to have about 70 degrees in your area today, which is the reason why your housing market is one of the better performing across the country, doing very, very well. And the COVID, when it first arrived to the country, it was a highly uncertain, ugly virus, flipped our life upside down. Yet one silver lining is that it really made real estate take off. So real estate has been doing well in 2020, as well as this recently completed year of 2021. But what can we anticipate in 2022 this year? So let me put a PowerPoint slide onto the screen so you can see the visuals a little better. So hold 1 second. Okay, there we go. So I think you can see it on the screen, and I will proceed as everything is good. If you have problem, just let me know. So let me first start with the labor market, jobs data. So the unemployment rate made a miraculous progress. Back in April 2020, unemployment rate really shot up. It was uncertain as to how far it would go up because we were under a lockdown. We could not get out of our house. We were afraid of the virus, many uncertainty out there. In Orlando, Florida, where it's completely tourism dependent, I know that you get a lot of tourists in your area as well, but Orlando specifically, massive tourism, that dried up. So in Orlando, unemployment rate actually went up to 33%, 1/3 of the people essentially without a job. But nationwide, unemployment rate again went up to about 15%. But with each passing month, reopening of the economy, unemployment rates began to slide down to such a point that today unemployment rate is 3.9%, essentially matching what it was before COVID. So in this sense, it looks like we are making a very good progress. But of course, we walk the street, look out the window, we know things are not back to normal in terms of the job market. So let's see the labor market in slightly different angle. This is the number of people with jobs, people on payroll, working at a hospital, working for the government, working for private companies, NASA, you name it. How many people in America are on payroll? So in April 2020, plunge, large number of job cuts. With each passing month, job creation, but note that we are not back to normal. So even though unemployment rate is saying we are back to normal, if we look at people with jobs, we are not back to normal. We are still shy by 3 million. In fact, the latest data that came out in December with 199,000 job creation, at this pace, it's going to take another 18 months to get us back to normal in terms of the job market situation. This is a nationwide phenomenon. And here is an interesting comparison state by state. So you have 50 states, and I color-coded it. The dark blue are states that is struggling to create jobs. For example, New York, they're down 7.0. So what it means is that the latest information versus pre-COVID, March 2020, they are down 7% in terms of jobs. So in New York. And then you see other states with sort of dark blue, like Minnesota, Illinois, Michigan. Then you look at Florida. Florida is down minus 0.4, which means you are almost there. You are almost back to normal in terms of the overall job situation. There are only 4 states with more jobs today versus before COVID. Those are orange colors: Idaho, Utah, Arizona, and Texas. So one consequence of the governor's decision is that in states where the governors had a stricter lockdown, like California, New York, their job market was slow to recover. Florida was one of the earlier states to say, okay, we are open for business, come do your stuff. So it is much milder, even if it's tourism dependent. Still, job creation almost back to normal, which is quite remarkable. I also want to highlight a couple of other states: Alaska, Louisiana, North Dakota. They produce a lot of oil, but they're not adding jobs, which is a little strange because every time we try to put gasoline into our car, last time I did it, $80. I mean, you just eye-popping number, $80. Of course, I don't know how large your gas tank is, but gasoline prices are hitting our pocketbook. Generally, when oil prices rise, there is more drilling for oil because there's a profit incentive. But somehow in Alaska, Louisiana, and North Dakota, they're not drilling all that much, even though oil prices are high. They're saying there's too much regulation or future regulation, especially with Washington essentially saying, we don't like carbon, we don't like oil, we like green energy. I am in DC NAR building, Realtor's building. This is the first green building in DC when it was constructed 15 years ago. So people care about green energy. However, we have to assure that the transition phase is smooth. We cannot suddenly say, okay, we are anti-carbon and then have this high oil prices, because without drilling, we will have this high elevated gasoline prices for some time. So based on the number of drilling or non-drilling, I think we're going to have this high oil prices for some time going forward. So, we want to have more green energy, but it's going to take time. Until that time comes, we need to ensure that we have adequate supply of carbon energy. I know you are in a nice weather state, but people in Boston or other colder states, they're going to get hit with a massive electricity bill, heating bill when it arrives, because the natural gas prices are high. So it's very, very high energy cost situation at the moment. Let's look at the job market slightly differently. This is a very interesting. Red is number of people unemployed, while the blue is people who are job openings. So red is unemployed, while blue is help wanted signs, job openings. So we are in a very unique circumstance where there is more job openings than unemployed. In fact, it's ratio of 2 to 1. I mean, you walk the street, there's help wanted sign everywhere. There's help wanted sign at the construction site. There's help wanted for software developers. So there is help wanted everywhere. So it's theoretically possible someone who is unemployed to actually have 2 jobs, because there are 2 job openings for each one unemployed. So we are in a very unique circumstance. But of course, because of COVID, things have really made it difficult. Some people do not want to interact with the customer service, say a waiter. They don't want to catch COVID, so they want to just not be in the job market. In other cases, in some cases, there's a vaccine mandate, and for some people, they're saying, no, I'd rather quit rather than get a vaccine. So a variety of different reasons as to why we have this unique situation where there's large number of help wanted sign. Truck driver, they need truck drivers, but we are having a hard time hiring people because of this unique situation that we have. Now, one place where we don't have worker shortage, for better or worse, is that people want to become realtors. So we have record high membership. In fact, some people are quitting their companies and say, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start my own business. I want to open up my restaurant. I want to be an Uber driver, or maybe I want to go into real estate. Now, as you know, being a realtor is a very challenging profession. Trying to get the listing is difficult. Trying to find the client is difficult. It's hugely competitive. But some of the newcomers think it's an easy business or glamorous profession, and they want to give it a try. Now, you have to applaud the entrepreneurial spirit, but the reality is it's a very, very competitive environment. But I just want to illustrate that even though the housing market has been doing well, you have more competition. So there is a worker shortage pretty much everywhere, but not in realtors. People want to become realtors. People have the right to do it, but there's more competition out there. Let's look at the job market in your area. So this is how they define the Cape Coral, Fort Myers metropolitan statistical area. Somehow the government do not break it out between Cape Coral and Fort Myers, they combine together. But the trend would be very similar in both areas. So what you see is job market for the past 22 years, from year 2000 to current. So there's a little fluctuation. So initially from year 2000, job growth and then decline. That's the foreclosure crisis. During the foreclosure crisis, people lost jobs. But once the foreclosures were over, steady job gains, such that right before the lockdown, there were 280,000 jobs in your area. That is a substantial gain over a 20-year period, substantial gain. And then you had a lockdown, reopening of the economy. Now you have essentially same number of jobs now versus pre-COVID. So essentially you are back to normal in that sense. Let me highlight, I'll put that red line to illustrate year 2000, because our headquarters is in Chicago. I'm in DC, but our headquarters is in Chicago. But Chicago market looks like this, just to provide a little context and comparison. So there is a fluctuation. They had a foreclosure crisis and then jobs recovery after foreclosures went over. But look where their jobs are today, same as in year 2000. Let me go back to your market. This is the case in your market, substantially higher. I think this is about 50% growth in jobs over the past 20 years. So you are in a much comfortable position compared to, say, markets like Chicago. Detroit is actually negative. It's actually falling. It's the lower level of jobs today versus year 2000. So there's the variation across the country, but you are one of the better performers in the whole US. Something that people are talking about, which is consumer price inflation. So inflation rate of 7.1% in the latest reading is the highest in 40 years. So if you happen to be under 40 years of age, you have never seen this, highest in 40 years. Now, for some people who lived through the 1970s will remember that every time you went to the grocery store, there was higher prices. And in fact, there was a gas shortage where you have to wait in line. I think some states had a license tag rule that if your last number on your license tag was an odd number, then you can't get a gas on Wednesday. But if your odd number, your last digit was even number, then you cannot get gasoline on Wednesday, but you have to wait until Thursday. And that's all this strange stuff that was happening in the 1970s. But the consumer price right now is the highest in 40 years. And question is it going to continue to increase? Is it going to disappear? Many people in Washington, including the White House, including the Federal Reserve, including many think tanks believe that it will go away within a year. They think this is a temporary situation, container ships unable to unload and things like that. While other people are saying, no, there's a lot of printing of the money. Anytime you print a lot of money, it's going to cause sustained long-term inflation. So let me switch a little bit out of real estate just momentarily. Because there is a high inflation, and there is a new guy in town named cryptocurrency, which was not present 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And some people are saying buy cryptocurrency as an inflation hedge. And there is a group of people as how they view cryptocurrency. One is people who say it's a fraud, stay away. They don't know how it works. Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of all time. Warren Buffett said, I'm not going to invest in cryptocurrency. He's staying away from it. Then there are the short-term board gamblers. You don't care whether it is a basketball team, Miami Heat, or football games. You just want to, see some action. Anything that moves, I want to put my money on it. And cryptocurrency moves a lot, up, down, up. So people want to make a little bet just for excitement. Then there are the midterm investors who are saying, I don't really know how cryptocurrency works, but I heard that Goldman Sachs is buying cryptocurrency. Morgan Stanley is buying cryptocurrency. Elon Musk, apparently the wealthiest individual in the whole world today, he's buying cryptocurrency. So I don't want to miss action. So maybe I should buy cryptocurrency. And the last group is the following. Why the heck did cryptocurrency come about in the first place? Who created Bitcoin? What was the motivation? And the motivation was twofold. One was don't trust the dollar or any printed government money, British pound, whatever it is, don't trust it because they print too much and it loses value. So you can either have gold, but we have something called cryptocurrency that's limited in supply. The other reason for cryptocurrency is anonymity. You can make transaction without government knowing anything about it. I think there is some proposal from the government to say any $600 transaction, they want to know why you made that transaction. Well, with the cryptocurrency, they would not know about it. So anonymity. So essentially saying, don't trust the government. I'm going to use cryptocurrency rather than the dollar. So however you view it, this is the group of people related to cryptocurrency. I only bring this up because, it's a hot topic, a part, but also to illustrate, if you are concerned about inflation and you are looking for inflation hedge, guess what? Real estate has proven to be a very good inflation hedge. Cryptocurrency, that's your decision, but I can pretty much say that real estate is a very good hedge against inflation. Let's look at the 1970s decade. During that time, average consumer prices increased about 7.1% per year. Next year, another 7% increase. The home prices actually did better. So if you own real estate, you did well. 1980s, for a couple of years in 1980s, mortgage rate went up to 18%. Can you imagine mortgage rate at 18%? I mean, pretty much all your monthly payment is the interest. I mean, there's very little principal at that point. So what did home sales do in the 1980s? It plunged. So if you were involved in sales, you lost half of your business in the 1980s. But what about prices? Did the prices decline as people were not buying home? And the answer is no, prices increased. Home prices increased in the 1980s because the rents were rising along with consumer price inflation. So when the rents rise, it provides support for home prices. Because real estate investors can always say, yeah, I have this asset, I collect rent, next year, higher rent, I'm willing to pay a price for the home. So rising rents during high inflationary time has been a good hedge against inflation. Then other decades, you see that home prices have either matched or did well. Even during the foreclosure crisis, home prices plunged. But if you held that for a long period, 10 years, however you want to do it, for 10 years, you came out okay, even through that foreclosure crisis. Now, you bought it at the top, you crashed, of course, you lost a lot of money. But if you held on for 10 years time, then you did fine. So people concerned with inflation, you can say home prices have demonstrated as a good hedge. In fact, there are other good hedge. Apartment buildings, the top blue line, multifamily apartments, rents are currently rising at 11% on some of the new tenants. Renewal leases are not rising that much, but the new tenant leases are rising very strongly. So if you buy apartment buildings, I think you'll be doing well, but not office. Office is the red. Office rents are not rising. I am in Washington, D.C. All the buildings are pretty much empty because people are working from home. So many areas they're working from home. So they are theoretically occupied, they're paying rent, but some people are leaving. So no rent growth in office. Industrials, it's not sexy, it's a warehouse. But if you held that, prices are rising because people are doing online shopping. Amazon wants to buy warehouses. So warehouse rents are rising. And the retail is slowly recovering. So they suffered, but now they are beginning to recover. So apartment looks to be good, warehouse looks to be good, office, no, but retail, a little dicey, it could go either way. So this is another possibility on inflation hedge, where the rents are rising. I mentioned that in Washington, we have many empty buildings because people are working from home. New York City would be number one because it's just simply a big market. You know, you see huge skyscrapers, so people are not coming to New York. Those are sitting empty. And you see other cities along where it is negative. But believe it or not, there are some positive markets, which is the orange color. Austin, there's a demand for office spaces in Austin, in Miami, Palm Beach. In fact, people in like Palm Beach and Miami are saying to New York, if you are a Wall Street company, come on down. We have zero state income tax in Florida. It's much fun and better to do business here. So there's positive. Houston doing well. Salt Lake City, your market is too small, so it's not being reflected here. But you know, if it's indicative of say Naples or Miami, you know, you are seeing more people interested in coming there and opening up an office space. So a little dynamics between where there's loss of office space where there is a gain. So you are doing better in terms of jobs. You are doing better in terms of office occupancy. Let me now turn to the housing market. This graph, the home sales is divided into two parts. Pre-COVID and since the ugly virus came to the country, with the middle part being the lockdown, when we had the lockdown. So you can look at the graph and say, wow, ever since we had COVID come to the country, real estate really took off because a couple of reasons. One, mortgage rate went to historic lows. People want to take advantage of that. Second reason was work from home. People could work from home or work from anywhere and say, I want to work from Florida or work in the next county. And therefore, home sales really began to take off. I need a larger space house. I need some office space in my home. So home sales really took off once the COVID arrived. Again, COVID is a terrible thing, but one silver lining is that real estate is one industry that really did very well based on this chart that you see. Now, home builders do need to build more because you don't have enough inventory. You want to do more business, you want to have more listings, but way to do that is for the builders to build more. There's a chain reaction. When the builders build more homes, some people in Fort Myers will move up to their newly constructed home. In the process, they will release their old home into the multiple listing service. So that's how you get that listing, so chain reaction process. So we need to build more homes. And what this chart shows is that big plunge that occurred during the foreclosure crisis, then it was sort of slow recovery, not any robust recovery. And for almost 15 years, underproducing compared to historical normal, which is the reason why we don't have enough homes for sale. Not only in your area, you go to Kansas City, not enough homes for sale. You go to Indianapolis, not enough homes. Boston, just about everywhere across the country, inventory shortage because we have not been building enough homes. But directionally, builders want to build more homes. I know they're struggling with some of the supply chain issues. The doorknobs, window frame is stuck in some container ship out in the ocean, unable to unload. So you know that is causing some delays. But the builders want to build more. There's a profit incentive, and you will get more inventory next year because builders will be building more. Now, using the Florida Gulf Coast Multiple Listing Service, you know, please visit the website. All this information is there. So in your area, or the area where the multiple listing service covers, you can see that the listings are beginning to show a little increase in 2021. I mean, it's fast-moving market, but the pending contracts are up 20%. The closed transaction for the year was up 14%. Nationwide, it increased only by 8%. So you increased 14%, which means you did better than the country. And the days on the market, very swift. Just last year, it was 65 days, now 28 days, very fast moving market. and the prices up 25%. So quite a spectacular performance. This is single family. For townhouse and condominiums, in other areas of the country, it's fairly small market. But in Florida, it's quite substantial because you have a lot of second home, people who are, have residents in Chicago, they want to have some second home or condominium out in Florida Gulf Coast. So the prevalence of condominium or townhouses is more in your area. And you see that overall, the closed transaction is up 25%. That's the third line, 25%, while the prices are up 19%. So again, quite a remarkable growth in terms of both unit sales and price increases in the Florida Gulf Coast region. Mortgage rates, which have been very favorable throughout the pandemic, will now start to increase. This is my forecast. The real world could be a little different. Real world could be a little higher or lower than my forecast, but I believe the average mortgage rate will be something closer to 4% by December of this year, because the Federal Reserve said they will raise interest rate 2 or 3 times this year. They said they will raise interest rate 2 or 3 times. Now, the mortgage rates generally follows that direction. It does not have to be necessarily on the day of the decision by the Federal Reserve, but the bond market is waiting and see how to digest all this information. So the mortgage rate will be rising. So if you have a financially ready client, it is better to enter the market now, lock in a little lower rate, rather than wait later and face higher mortgage rates. Also, higher mortgage rate will squeeze away some of the first-time buyers. Maybe someone was trying to save up for down payment. Now, home prices are much higher, but with higher mortgage rates, it becomes more difficult to buy. So some first-time buyers will be squeezed out of the market with this rising mortgage rates. It's not anything alarming, going up to maybe 4%. It's still historically one of the better rates, but it is no longer that super bonus low interest rate of 3%. So we are facing a rising interest rate environment. Regarding inventory, absolute low. This is a nationwide, but any local area would show something similar. I remember Sunday newspaper, when people used to actually get the newspaper, paper form, not internet. 15 years ago in Miami Herald, front page to say 30 years supply of inventory because of foreclosures and very little buying activity. But things have changed so fast. Now, there's just not enough inventory, essentially a record low. But I think it's going to shoot higher for 3 key reasons. First reason, we already examined, builders want to build more, they will be building more. So that's one. It takes a little more longer to complete, but the builders are planning on building more. Second reason is the following: mortgage delinquency, which is the top line. You see in the middle of the graph, that's the last time we had subprime lending, those risky mortgages, which blew up. Fortunately, we don't have those risky mortgages, but it blew up during the lockdown. When there was a lockdown, people lost jobs and said, oh no, I cannot pay mortgage, I'm gonna lose my home. But thankfully, there was a federal support program called mortgage forbearance. You don't pay your mortgage, you don't lose your home, as long as you are in the mortgage forbearance period. That's why the red line foreclosure was at absolute low points. You don't pay your mortgage, no problem, you still get to keep your home. But that program is now winding down. And some people are already exiting, or they're forced to exit, which means that some people who cannot pay mortgage, they either have to find job quickly or they have to sell their home, because banks are saying, look, you don't pay your mortgage, we're going to take over the home. So people will be forced to sell, and hence there will be some increase in inventory as some people are forced to sell. Now let's hope that they can find job, they can pay mortgage payment, but we know the real world. Not everyone will be able to find the job they like. Their skill set match does not work. So some people will be forced to sell. I don't think it will be foreclosures because of strong price increases. They will simply have a normal sale and have some money left over. So but there will be more inventory coming up because mortgage forbearance program is winding down. The third reason is really an American tragedy. This is the number of death certificates issued in the US. So in a given year, it's about 2.5 million Americans die each year, from old age, heart attack, automobile accident, a variety of reasons. Even before COVID, we saw American death rate rise because of the opioid crisis in the rural communities and in America. Because of the drug overdose, opioid addiction, it was rising, fentanyl and such. But look what has happened since the COVID came. Sharp upturn. So this is an American tragedy from COVID. I don't want to sound callous. I don't want to sound insensitive. I'm just trying to illustrate the reality. When there is a sharp increase in death rate, especially related to COVID, which is impacting essentially more elderly households. Elderly people are generally homeowners. So when they pass away, either it will be an estate sale, and after some adjustment, or say a person becomes a widow, and the widow says, I don't need this large home, I want to downsize. So there are many Americans, because of this COVID death situation, they need help on their housing, either estate sale or requiring some kind of downsizing. So this will be another source of inventory that will be coming to the market. Again, I'm not trying to imply, this tragedy leads to business opportunity. I'm just being very factual, the reality of the situation. People need help, and the realtors can help in terms of their housing needs adjustment. My final slide is the following. This is the unit sales year by year and home price growth year by year. And the dollar volume will be a combination of the unit sale and home prices. Florida market has generally done better than this table that you see. Table is nationwide. Florida does better because your job market is better. People are moving to Florida. So in 2021, home sales increased by 7%, home prices by 14%. So the revenue grew by 21%. In 2022, higher mortgage rate will shave off some demand, especially first-time buyers. But the prices will still rise because of the inflationary pressure, the rents are rising, and we still have the housing shortage without those risky mortgages. So home prices will still rise. So dollar revenue will still be positive. If you thought 2021 was a good year, well, 2022 will essentially match that. Only thing you have to be concerned is other realtors. As you saw, there are many people coming into the industry. It's fiercely competitive industry out there. But in terms of the dollar business opportunity, it's going to essentially match what happened last year. So with that, thank you very much for having me this morning. And now I am going to turn it back to, I'm not sure, but on the chat, I see the question about slides. I will send the slide over to the local association, who will then share with everyone who have attended today.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. Great presentation. Everyone, you have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.